My daughter sold my beach house. That was the first sentence I heard when I answered the phone, and for a moment I thought I'd misheard her. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. You know how age is supposed to make people slower, softer, easier to shock? That has not been my experience. I was 72 years old, sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of black tea, gone lukewarm in my hand, and I felt something colder than surprise settle into my chest. Not fear, not panic, recognition, because people do not say a sentence like that unless they believe two things. First, that they've already won, and second, that you're too late to stop them. Mother, my daughter said, impatient as ever, we're leaving tomorrow. So I wanted to tell you myself. We? That word snagged my attention first. Not the sale, not even the house. We. She always used that word when she wanted to sound larger than she was, safer than she was, more certain than she had any right to be. Then she said it again, slower this time, like she was doing me a favor. I sold your beach house. I looked out my window at the bare branches in my backyard, swaying in the wind. Funny, the things you notice when someone believes they've just shattered your life. The branch tips, the chipped rim of a mug, the ticking wall clock. I let the silence breathe. The beach house was not just real estate. It was the only place in my life that had outlasted my marriage, widowhood, betrayal, and every smiling relative who ever thought grief made a woman easy to corner. That house had stood through storms stronger than my daughter's nerve, and Laris, 39, restless, entitled, always half a step away from some dazzling new plan, had never understood that. It wasn't yours to sell, I said. She laughed. Not nervous laughter, not uncertain laughter, the sharp kind, the kind people use when they think paperwork is for other people. It's done, she said. Contract signed, deposit sent. We're finished here. Finished. That was the word that nearly made me smile, because anyone can say a thing is finished when they have never read the last page. I set my teacup down carefully and opened the drawer beside me. Inside was an old cream-coloured folder tied with a fading blue ribbon. I rested my hand on it, then asked the only question that mattered. Did you check the title? Silence. A long one. Then her voice changed. What title? Because the truth was never hidden. It was simply written where you never bothered to look. That's what I almost said. Instead, I let the silence stretch just a little longer, long enough for discomfort to start doing its work. Was, I corrected her gently. What do you mean was? Lyris snapped. I could hear movement on her end, heels on tile, a door closing, the faint echo of someone else in the background. My name is on it. I've seen it. Of course she had. That was the problem. You see, Lyris has always believed that seeing something once means understanding it completely. She inherited her father's confidence, but none of his patience. And patience. That's where the truth usually hides. Years ago, after my husband passed, things between us changed. And she began asking questions, not out of care, but calculation. What assets existed? What was hers eventually? What could be managed now? So I gave her something, a name on a document, a role, a title that sounded like ownership, felt like control, but wasn't either. Temporary, conditional, precise. I remember the day she signed the acknowledgement papers. She didn't read them, didn't ask, just smiled like she'd stepped into something permanent. That smile stayed with me. "Mother," she said now, her voice tightening, "stop speaking in riddles. I had authority, legal authority." "Did you read it?" I asked. A pause. That pause told me everything, because people who read don't hesitate like that. They answer too quickly, or they correct you. But hesitation? That's where assumptions live. "You put my name on it," she insisted. You said I could manage things." "I said you could assist," I replied. Another silence, sharper this time, and beneath it, something new, not anger, doubt. I leaned back in my chair, finally pulling the ribbon loose from the folder, but not opening it yet. Paper has weight, not just physical weight, but timing. You don't reveal it too early. "You were never the owner, Lyris," I said quietly. Her breath caught, just slightly. "That's not possible." "Oh, but it was, because ownership isn't what people think it is. It isn't a name typed neatly on a line. It's structure, layers, conditions, triggers, and most importantly, it's control over when those things change." "What did you do?" she asked, her voice no longer steady. I finally slid the folder open. "I updated," I said. What you never read. Go check it." That's all I said. No explanation, no defense, just a quiet instruction. And sometimes that's far more unsettling than an argument. For a moment she didn't respond. Then I heard hurried movement, the sharp tapping of heels turning frantic, a door slamming open. "You're bluffing," Lyris muttered, but her voice had already lost its edge. Was I? I leaned back in my chair and listened. There's a particular kind of silence that comes when someone is staring at something they don't understand yet. Not confusion. No. This was recognition trying to catch up to reality. Then came the sound. A sharp inhale. No. It slipped out of her before she could stop it. And there it was. "What are you looking at?" I asked, though I already knew. "My name," she started, then stopped. I could hear her breathing now, uneven, like she'd just missed a step in the dark. "It's not here." Of course it wasn't, because 3 weeks ago, while she was busy asking me casual questions and pretending interest, I executed a clause she had never bothered to read, a reversion condition, quiet, automatic, and absolute. No warning, no notification, just correction. "It doesn't just disappear," she said quickly, grasping for logic. "That's not how this works. There has to be a filing, a notice, something." "There was," I replied. "You signed it years ago." Silence. Heavy now, pressing, and then, like a delayed collapse. Oh my God, that wasn't for me. That was for what came next. Because while she had been speaking to me, confidently announcing her victory, another process had already begun unraveling her version of reality. The buyer, the deposit, the contracts she thought were binding. "They're calling me," she said suddenly, panic breaking through fully now. "The buyer's attorney. They're asking why the ownership doesn't match, why the entity name is different. What entity is this?" Ah, there it is. Layers, structures, things she never cared to understand. "You sold something you didn't own," I said calmly. "I had authority. You had access," I corrected. Her breath hitched. That distinction, it matters more than anything. "They're saying this could be fraud," she whispered, and just like that the word entered the room. Not mine, theirs. I closed the folder slowly. "You moved too quickly," I told her. "Paperwork doesn't reward speed." "You did this," she snapped, but it rang hollow now. Desperate. "You set me up." "No," I said. You set yourself in motion. Another call buzzed on her end, louder this time, insistent. They're threatening legal action, she said, voice shaking. The escrow's frozen. I don't understand. You will, I said quietly. A pause, then I added, almost as an afterthought. The house was never meant to be sold. Silence, cold, absolute. What do you mean? She asked. I let that question sit. Then she whispered, Who does it belong to? It was never yours to begin with. That's where I should have started. But timing is everything, and understanding always lands harder when someone believes they've already reached the end. Who does it belong to? Lyris asked again, her voice thinner now, stretched tight with something unfamiliar. Fear. I opened the folder fully this time, unletting the papers breathe in the quiet of my kitchen. The edges were worn, the ink older than some of her decisions, but still precise, always precise. You're asking the wrong question, I told her. Then what's the right one? She shot back, but there was no bite left in it. I traced a finger along the top document. The date sat there, unchanged, 17 years ago. The question isn't who owns it now, I said. It's who it was promised to before you ever touched it. Silence, then softer, almost unwilling. Promised? Yes. Because after my husband died, I learned something very quickly. People circle assets the way storms circle coastlines, slowly, patiently, inevitably. So I made a decision before anyone could ask me for anything. I removed the possibility. The property was placed into a trust, I continued. Not for you, not for me eventually. For a coastal preservation entity. What? She stammered. A protected designation, I said. Upon my death, the house transfers to them. It becomes untouchable, unsellable, permanent. Her breathing stopped for a second, then resumed, faster. That doesn't make sense, she said. My name was there, I saw it. Yes, I agreed, as an administrative placeholder. The words landed like glass. A convenience, I added. Temporary, conditional. No, she whispered. No, you're lying. I signed documents. I had rights. You had responsibilities, I corrected. And that difference finally reached her. I could hear it. The moment everything rearranged itself in her mind. The past conversations, the papers she skimmed, the signatures she gave without question. They're saying I violated something, she said faintly, that I triggered a clause. You did. A reversion clause, she read, her voice shaking as if she were seeing it for the first time, because she was. It says any attempt to liquidate without full authority results in immediate removal and legal flagging. Her voice cracked. You knew. I didn't answer, because knowing isn't the same as forcing. I didn't think you'd actually do it, I said after a moment. But I prepared for the possibility. A long, hollow silence followed, then barely audible. You expected me to fail. I closed the folder. No, I said. I expected you to read. And on the other end of the line, something in her finally broke. You need to listen carefully now. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't rush. Because this was the part that actually mattered. On the other end, Lyris said nothing. No interruptions, no defiance, just breathing, uneven, restrained, as if any sudden movement might make things worse. Good. Here is what actually happened, I continued. The beach house has never been owned by any individual, not in the way you believed. It was placed into a trust structure nearly 2 decades ago. That trust holds the property through a legal entity. Your name was added later, temporarily, to assist with administrative tasks, not ownership, not control. Silence. You signed documents acknowledging that, I added, including the reversion clause. I didn't read it, she whispered. I know. And that was the simplest truth in the entire situation. When you initiated the sale, I went on, you acted outside the authority granted to you. That automatically triggered the clause. Your name was removed. The transaction was flagged. From that moment forward, you were no longer connected to the property in any legal capacity. A shaky breath. So the sale, she began, was invalid from the start. Everything fit. Every question she had asked, every contradiction she couldn't resolve. It all had an answer now, clean, complete, unavoidable, but understanding doesn't erase consequences. The buyer has grounds to pursue damages, I said. At minimum, you'll face legal fees. Possibly more depending on how far they push it. The escrow account is frozen. Any funds you received will be scrutinized. Oh God, she murmured. Your travel plans, I continued. You won't be leaving tomorrow. That one landed harder than the rest, because it was immediate, real. And the family, I added almost as an aside. They'll hear about this, they always do. A long pause followed, not the sharp silences from before, but something heavier, settling, accepting. I thought it was mine, she said finally. I know, I replied. Weeks passed after that call. The buyer withdrew, but not quietly. There were claims, negotiations, attorneys involved, expensive ones. Lyris stayed where she was, dealing with the aftermath, piece by piece. Slower now, careful, for the first time in years, deliberate. As for the house, I visited it once more. The ocean hadn't changed. It never does for things like this. The same wind, the same rhythm against the shore. Indifferent to paperwork, but bound by it all the same. Inside, everything remained exactly where it belonged. Controlled, as secured, finished. My phone buzzed as I stood by the window. A message from Lyris, no arguments, no demands, just one line. I understand now. I read it once, then locked the screen, and as I stepped outside, closing the door behind me, I said quietly, understanding always comes after the signature.